Chairman, it's great to see you, sir. Thank you for being here.
Hey, Cheryl, how are you? Thank you very much for having me.
I gotta ask you about what we saw today on the House side with Maxine Waters. That was something else, I guess. Now, he's going to be testifying tomorrow in front of your committee, Senator. So welcome to the program. This is the first hearing of your committee. I'm sure you're expecting a little more decorum when the Senate greets the Treasury Secretary tomorrow.
That was awful, to be honest with you. Scott, God bless you for being there. No question about it. To watch the ranking member of the Financial Services Committee tell them to shut up, that's just disrespectful. What we really want is the American people to be informed and educated on how we are working for them. They're our bosses. We don't work for Scott Bessent. We work for the American people, and Scott works for them too. And so what we'll talk about tomorrow is how to make sure that 2026 is a year of affordability, starting with housing. The average first-time home buyer, Cheryl, is 40 years old. Today is my mom's birthday, and she became a first-time home buyer at 38 years old. I want to drop that age, and the road to housing legislation that passed through committee 24-0 is the way we get it done. Thank God President Trump agrees with the vast majority of that legislation. We look forward to working with our friends in the House to make that a law so that the average person in this country experiences their version of the American dream, because President Trump made a commitment on the campaign trail, and we're going to keep that commitment in government.
Understood. And certainly a part of bringing the cost of housing down is getting interest rates down. That, of course, is going to be on the shoulders of the next Federal Reserve Chairman. So I got to ask you about this, because you've got the Democrats on your committee are threatening to block his nomination and to block him from getting any further because they want the investigation into Jerome Powell thrown out. How are you going to handle this, sir, as the chairman of this committee?
Well, the good news is that we have 13 Republicans, 11 Democrats. There's enough politics. Bottom line is we have enough votes to get Kevin Warsh across the finish line. I've known Kevin for 10 years, and here's a guy who the last time he was before the Senate, he was able to get through with a voice vote. A voice vote, Cheryl. Think about that. I mean, everybody voted for him, and no one had opposition. I don't expect that this time, but what I do expect us to do is to dig into his economic philosophy. I'm hoping that interest rates come down this year with at least 3 or 4 cuts to come. What does that mean for the average first-time home buyer? Lower interest rates means lower payments. It also means to the average person in this country, all things become more affordable as our economy continues to produce higher than expected results for everyday people sitting at their kitchen table and asking the question, can I afford it?
Certainly understood. And you're right about the math on your committee to get Warsh out of committee. The only problem here is maybe Senator Tom Tillis. Have you had any conversations with him? He's made some pretty big statements.
He has, and we're not going to negotiate through TV, but what I will tell you, Cheryl, because we like you so much, is that Tom Tillis and I had a very productive conversation this weekend about getting Kevin Warsh through the committee. The best way to do that is the conversation we had this weekend will produce fruit. It had a lot to do with Jay Powell, had a lot to do with us moving this country forward. The good news is Tom Tillis, he actually likes Kevin Warsh. So I think we're on the same page. He has some things he wants to get done. We'll make sure that those little fires are put out so that we can get Kevin Warsh working for the American people.
I want to ask you about this. This just crossed just a few moments ago. President Trump giving an interview with NBC, and he mentioned Kevin Warsh. He was asked about it by this reporter. What he said is he wouldn't have picked Kevin Warsh if he didn't agree with him that interest rates need to be lower. That's going to come up, I'm sure.
No doubt. Yeah, yeah, definitely. I can see it now. My Democrats are salivating on the committee waiting to ask that question. Here's what we know. The average person in this country wants interest rates to come down. Of course, Kevin should want interest rates coming down. When you're coming before the banking committee, the one thing we want is independence in the Fed. But we also want to make sure that the Fed takes care of 2 really important parts of the equation. Number one, price stability. Think about what President Trump has done in the last 12 months or so. Gas prices haven't been this low in 5 years. Next topic, housing. How do we make sure that the average person can afford a house? That means, in many ways, interest rates have to be better. And better for all of us means lower. Our economy is strong. Inflation is relatively low. That means that there's a reason for us to expect more interest rate cuts. And Kevin, if you're listening, I want interest rates to come down as well. I'm an average American. I want the same thing they want too. So I'm excited about having Kevin come over and take over the helm. The one thing about Jay Powell is he politicized the Fed so poorly and so much that under Biden, he would do one thing, and under Trump, he did a different thing. It's time for us to have an independent Fed that looks out for the best interests of the average person.
Right, Senator. And I remember seeing you with President Trump when you were when he went to the Fed and you were looking through that renovation with the president. I remember the video because, you know, well, we all saw the video. Before you go, though, I do want to ask you real quick, the Clarity Act, where are we? Can you give us any updates this afternoon?
Well, Monday, the banks and the crypto industries met at the White House to solve the issue around rewards. We're going to have a compromise there. Both sides have to give a little so that the average person in our country experiences democratization and lower prices and easier access. For that to happen, both the crypto industry and the banks have got to come to an agreement to allow some level of rewards to be offered, but to not do it on just a balance. So we're going to have to make it a little more of a complicated formula for them to offer the rewards. But we can do that because we do not want anyone assuming that it's a savings account, but we also do not want to stop innovation and competition from coming into our financial space, making it easier for the average family to afford more.
Sure. Well, the banks, of course, are nervous. There's going to be this massive flight of capital. You know, of course they are.
Doesn't show it. Yeah, of course, exactly. Of course they are, Cheryl. But that's not the way it will work. We'll protect our community banks, by the way, at the same time.
Well, Senator Tim Scott, we're going to be watching that hearing tomorrow with the Treasury Secretary, and I'm sure that that's going to be a fascinating hearing. You're going to be, of course, chairing that. It's always great to see you, Chairman. Thank you for being here.